Welcome to For You Radio, where the gospel's for the believer and the unbeliever alike. I'm Craig D'Onofrio, pastor of Redeemer Lutheran Church in Wilmer, Minnesota. And Troy.
You didn't cue me, so I wasn't ready to jump in there. But I am Troy Neer, pastor of St. Peter's Lutheran Church, Shaker Heights, OHIO. Here
there you are.
I
yes.
know. I'm right here. And it's a beautiful, cloudy day in Cleveland area.
It is hot and humid in Minnesota, I got to tell you. It gets mighty cold here and mighty sticky here at the same time.
Yes.
Not at the same
Not at the same
time.
time. That'd be weird.
Yes. Anyway, we are happy to be part of 1517.org's podcast network. Go check out 1517.org. Lots of podcasts over there. 40 minutes in the Old Testament, 30 minutes in the New Testament. We've got Faith and Reason Exchange and so many other wonderful podcasts. Check it out. And Chad Bird, resident scholar, has a new book out, Hitchhiking with the Prophets, a ride through the salvation story of the Old Testament. We're going to have to get Chad on the program pretty soon. That also makes our life easier, which means we don't have to spend all these hours preparing for a show. We just simply say, hey, Chad, talk, and then he can talk. That'd be great. So anyway, go check out 1517.org. Go get Chad's new book and enjoy. I'm going to get my hands on that book myself because it looks very interesting. Troy, if people wanted to email us, what address would they use?
Well, first you'd have to actually consent to using email because no one does that anymore, but I'm firmly and stubbornly sticking to it. So do not message us.
Consent to using email.
Yes. You can't slide into our DMs on any particular social media. Nothing like that. You must email us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We're a little old school. This is just one step beyond the Pony Express.
I am almost this close to going back to that. But email us. email us at foryouradio@1517.org.
There we go. All right. Anything else, Troy? I feel like I've forgotten something. It's been a while since we've recorded. Because
Well, indeed it has.
I've been gone to conferences and you went on vacation and there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on.
Well, yeah. So what we were forgetting is to say, I'm sorry for last week when we had no episode.
Yeah.
Yep. We had all sorts of stuff going on. So that was episode 272, by the way, if you're looking.
The missing episode.
Yes, from this point forward will always be the lost episode of For You Radio.
There's a lot of lore that's already going on around that episode. There's some Indiana Jones kind of stuff. And
is it?
Really, I mean, it's mysterious.
Yep. So
It's
at
really
the time
mysterious.
that the episode was supposed to be airing, I was at the stock car races in Hutchinson, Kansas. So
Stock car races.
yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Noisy. I had like double ear protection on. Yeah, just
Oh, yeah. Those things are, well, they don't put mufflers on them or anything.
no, they
so
take
it's-
them
it's
off
pretty bad.
deliberately, I think. So
All right. So we are continuing on, excuse me, in the book of Judges. I just cough up a lung.
thank
here.
you.
We're out of Judges, but the book's not over.
Weird.
So we're in chapter 17. So far we've talked about Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, Deborah and her buddy Gideon, Tola, Jair, I'm probably mispronouncing that one, Jephthah, Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon, and then this guy named Samson, or Samson is.
Samson. Yeah. To be fair, I think we might have skipped over one or two of those because they had like a verse each or something like that. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And this guy, Elon gets 2 whole verses, 12.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
11 through 12, and then Abdon gets chapter 12, verses 13 through 15. So, and then Ibzan also, he gets 12, 8 through 10. So they get 2 or 3 verses each.
Yeah, so where I know we skipped earlier chapters because they really didn't have any judges in them, and we said, well, we're just doing the judges.
Right.
But, so much of the book and so much of our emphasis upon this book has been that point where we kind of look at these people of ancient Israel and slap our foreheads and go, what? And these final chapters really put the capstone on all of that. So it's
the descending cycle of stupid.
Yes.
It's the downward spiral of stupid. And just when you think that it couldn't get more stupid than Samson, it does. Right?
It does, yeah. And we might be able to say, like, basically, if this is the type of leaders you had, this is where your nation ends up.
That is not a commentary on the current election.
I about said that same thing myself.
Or is it?
But no, it is not. But, no, it is not. Because in ancient Israel, the judge, the king, for that matter, the priests, all of those were there specifically as part of a theocracy, right? A country that is specifically led by God. There's actually a special name for that too, not just theocracy, but anyway, I'll remember it some other time. But the country is supposed to be led by God and lived under His principles, and so its leaders are supposed to direct the people back to living under God's principles, which include in ancient Israel faithful worship, faithful sacrifice, all of that stuff. There is no religious freedom in ancient Israel. They have only one way they're supposed to be doing things.
Yeah, there is one God. His name is Yahweh, and He does His being God the way that He does it, which is not to the liking of most people because we don't get to control Him.
Well, there you go. And that is still true, by the way.
Yes,
that God still God's the way He wants to God.
When you invent a God, then you get to have a God that, since I'm making it up, then God behaves like this, and He does that, and so forth and so on. And how do I know this is true? Because I just said so. I made it up.
Because I imagine it. Yeah, and that's the polar opposite of what we have here, of the one true actual God who has said, this is the way it works. And His leaders were supposed to point the people and draw the people back to that. And that is, as we have seen throughout the entire book of Judges, a downward spiral of judges increasingly just kind of living for themselves. Honestly, Samson, I think, is a great example.
Yeah.
Even when he kind of converts back to faithfulness to the Lord, he's still not very faithful.
And the thing that I find just really astonishing as you go through the book of Judges is these are God's right-hand chosen people, and they know virtually nothing about God whatsoever. And it's just like, what? I don't understand. But so, but isn't that kind of the way that it is with all of us? That even the most learned theologian really doesn't quite know as much as he thinks that he does.
Well,
because you can only know very little about the infinite God.
Yes. And I got to say, I don't appreciate the minor dig you're taking at higher academia and religion.
Well, Dr. New Year, let me explain something to you.
But however, the key distinction there would be...
at least we try.
Yes,
right?
There you go. So pastors, as pastors, we have the Word of God and we study it for the express purpose of growing in knowledge and understanding of it, that we may communicate those truths to the people. So these people in the book of Judges don't seem concerned about the Word of God at all.
Right. So if Troy or I were to go and slay 1,000 Philistines with a jawbone of an ass, and we say, boy, I'm really into lather, I think I'll go to a brothel, we might stop and say, you know what? There's a sixth commandment that tells me not to do that. Maybe I shouldn't. Whereas for Samson, it didn't seem to be a second thought. Right? I mean,
wow.
Not that we're so much greater, but, and honestly, slaying 1,000 Philistines, it's thirsty work. It really is. There's that.
Yeah, that's the oddest biblical image I've had today. So, by the way, anyway, so yeah. So anyway, Israel is in bad shape because her leaders are in bad shape, and the recurring theme still stands true. In those days in Israel, there was no king; everybody did as he wished.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, are we good now? I mean, we got enough.
Yeah. Okay. Let's turn to chapter 17 of Judges. And we will pick it up here. You want to read or shall I?
Well, yeah, I'll read a little bit, sure. So we pick it up. There was a man of the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah. And he said to his mother, the 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse, and also spoke it in my ears, behold, the silver is with me. I took it. And his mother said, Blessed be my son by the Lord. And he restored the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, I dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand for my son to make a carved image and a metal image. Now, therefore, I will restore it to you. So when he restored the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who made it into a carved image and a metal image, and it was in the house of Micah. Pause.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boy, we love God. Here, go make an idol.
The irony is delightful there. I mean, it is, wow. Yeah.
Blessed be my son by the Lord. That's capital Lord here. That's a reference to Yahweh, Elohim, whatever you want to say. This is the one true God. Blessed be my son by the one true God of Israel. And he gave her back the 1,100 pieces of silver. And she says, here, take 200 and go make an idol.
Yeah.
And what?
Yeah. I got to add this in too. And I was just looking this up a little bit. The dude's name, Micah. It literally translated is to who is as Yahweh, who is like the Lord. And so his name is this rhetorical theological question where you're supposed to say, well, nobody's like Yahweh.
Right.
And then instead we turn out, you know what? Hey, let's make a carved image that will make us think of what Yahweh is. Like, no, you can't do that. One, it's against the Mosaic law for one, and two, Craig had a great question earlier. What's this idol look like? I'm like, I have no idea.
Right.
Something is not supposed to. I know that.
So let's back up a little bit here. He hears his mother utter a curse over this 1,100 pieces of silver that have gone missing. I mean, it's basically, whoever has taken this 1,100 pieces of silver, may they develop leprosy and may their eyes fall out and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, now this money is cursed.
Yeah.
Mom, here, I took the silver. Here, have it back. I don't want the cursed money anymore. It's, kind of blood money kind of thing. Wasn't there one of the Pirates of the Caribbean kind of things where the stolen booty was cursed and it all had to be restored kind of thing?
Well,
I think it was kind of like that.
Actually, there's a better one in the Bible where Judas has given 30 pieces of silver to betray Jesus, and he feels guilty about that, throws it back at the temple, and they say, we can't take this. It's blood money.
What does this say about us that I go to Pirates of the Caribbean and you go to the Bible? I mean, what is...
Yeah, it says that we're really good partners on this radio podcast show.
Okay.
And,
all right,
good back and forth, give and take. That's what it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, so anyway, there's this cursed money. He gives it back, and Mom says, here, take 200 pieces to the silversmith and turn it into a carved image and a metal image, and we'll pray to that. Yeah, because God is good.
Okay, so again, the irony, right? One, his name is Micah, who is like the Lord. She says, "Blessed be my son by the Lord," and then she dedicates the money. And how much money is it?
Well, he took 1,100 pieces, but she takes 200 pieces,
and she dedicates the silver. So we would assume the 1,100 pieces. I dedicate this entirely to the Lord to make a carved image. And then she says, here's 200 shekels. Right? So where's the other 900? I think it's back in Mama's purse is where it is.
Probably.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Which, again, that is deliciously ironic. And also pretty much hits close to home. I think we all do with a lot of stuff like that. Lord, I'll turn my entire life over to you if, well, okay, not my entire life, but.
Right.
Did I say life? I meant strife. I meant,
There was a Burt Reynolds movie in the 1970s called The End, and he's kind of suicidal. He decides he's going to kill himself by swimming out into the ocean and drowning himself. And all of a sudden he's out there and he has a change of heart, and he's swimming back. And if I remember this right, as he's swimming back, he's like, God, if I get back to shore, I'll spend my whole life serving you, and I'll give you, all that I have to charities and that sort of. And as he gets closer, I'll give you 50% of everything. It gets closer, I'll give you 25%. It just keeps going down and down as he gets closer to shore. Well, that's kind of the way that we behave a lot of times. Lord, bail me out of this trouble, and I'll give you everything. And then by the time that we get out of whatever trouble we're in, it's like, boy, am I smart. I managed to deliver myself. Who needs God, right?
Yeah. And this is just that awful, right?
Yep.
So we've got, by the way, 200 pieces of silver. I again looked this up. About 5 pounds of silver. This carved image, this metal image, is not particularly impressive.
No, but if you have a home shrine or something like that, you probably get a foot tall statue out of it or something.
Maybe
like that.
5 pounds of silver. I don't even know.
Hard to say.
Well, if the carved image and the metal image were kind of combined, which maybe it could be, like if you carved the image and then overlaid molten silver over top of it, it would probably go a little bit further.
I'm thinking about that, and I've got a couple big bags of silver dimes from 1964 and before. And really, it's not a very big bag, and it weighs a lot more than 5 pounds. So, yeah, good point. Okay. Yeah, so you can come rob me. Just probably get about $80 worth of silver out of it.
All right.
Be good.
Biblically, I just need to know that you're not in the house, right? So, okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Where did we leave off there?
We left out verse
5?
4 because, yes, by the way, this carved image is in the house of the guy named Who is Like Yahweh.
Yeah.
Just, okay, continue on, shall we?
Yeah.
And the man Micah had a shrine. Oh, I got to say, stop right there. Literally in the Hebrew, house of gods. Literally what it is. Yeah, so he's got his little temple there with all the various little household gods he likes to worship. And the man Micah had a shrine. He made an ephod and household gods, there it is again, and ordained one of his sons who became his priest. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
I think that last line really sums it up. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Today, I speak my truth. It's my truth, and it's right because it's mine.
Yeah, but
have we really changed?
What is the standard for truth?
Whatever I want it to be.
The standard for truth always is and remains what God has said is true.
No, it's what's right in my own eyes.
No, it's what God has said is true because what God says is, for one, just is, and I like this too because what has God said? Who has God said are to be his priests? And by the way, where are they supposed to be priesting?
Levites, the temple.
The temple. And the temple's currently at? Well,
Shiloh,
it's at, tabernacle, technically, right? Someone's going to call me out on
right?
that. Yeah. It's still that tent thing.
Same idea. Temple, yeah.
It's still that tent thing they've been dragging around the desert.
It's the house of God, regardless.
Yeah. So one, you don't get to be an Ephraimite and make your own son your own priest. Doesn't work that way.
Well, is this a priest unto Yahweh, or is this a priest for all of his fake gods that he makes?
Well, I will answer that question by stating this: the man is an Israelite. Who's it supposed to be?
Well, it's supposed to be Yahweh. It's supposed to be the one true God. But he's making little... Yeah. He and Mama are in the idol making business, apparently.
So we'll say it this way then. This is a false priest ordained and consecrated to a false god under false pretenses with cursed money.
One of the things that we need to mention here also is something we call syncretism, and that's blending gods together, blending religion together, right? And I think we see that sort of thing going on here. This is part of why it's so confusing, is because Mama says, "Blessed be my son by Yahweh," and then, hey, go make us some gods, and but we'll just blend them all together because really, I mean, we'll roll our own. It's our own religion, right? So you end up with things like Santeria, which is Catholicism, and voodoo mixed together, and all. Okay. This is nothing new to us. We see this in our own world constantly.
Yeah, but on top of that, especially in Judges, and especially in this chapter, but I think especially in a lot of modern culture too, if you kind of smear a little bit of one true religion on top of that, it becomes extra special, right? So it's kind of whatever I want to make up underneath of it. But if I kind of put a smear of Jesus on top of it, then it's like, oh, you see, this is the really good stuff. And that's exactly what this guy does, by the way.
I would really, really love to engage more people with those coexist bumper stickers with all the different religions, because each religion makes exclusive claims unto itself.
Yes.
And so they can't really coexist, not in a sense where they're all true. They can all be wrong, but they can't all be true.
Right? Except the T in coexist is the cross. So one of them's right.
Right. So that one's true. But the C, the crescent, doesn't want to let the others exist. So of course, we don't want the others to exist either, but we're not going to put it down by violence or anything like that.
Well, yeah. So let's state what you just said and put it in a much better way. We want the other ones to come to repentance and knowledge of the truth.
Right.
Yes.
But we don't do that by violence or by force or any.
Well,
such
we
thing.
tried it a couple of times, but it didn't work out particularly well.
Even those times, there is more extenuating circumstances than our current historians.
I just like to point out that nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish. That's true. Okay, so, boy, we were worried that we weren't going to be able to. We were going to have 17. We're going to be. Yeah. We're going to have all this time. We're going to get through it.
We're going far afield on this, but all this, I think, that just kind of bring home some application for this text. And again, it's just astounding how stupid these people truly are, and then we get a good look at ourselves. And this is the function of the scriptures so many times, by the way. We look at these people and go, "Oh man, they're so dumb," and then we look at this and oh, I'm looking in a mirror. I forgot that.
Right?
Yeah, that looks a lot like me.
Because we all want a God made in our own image, no matter what.
Good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Verse 7. Now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. And the man departed from the town of Bethlehem in Judah to sojourn where he could find a place. And as he journeyed, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. And Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem in Judah. I'm going to sojourn where I may find a place." And Micah said to him, "Stay with me, and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year, and a suit of clothes, and your living." And the Levite went in. Levi was content to dwell with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. And Micah ordained the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and he was in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "Now I know the Lord will prosper me, because I have a Levite as a priest."
I want to make one point here, that he says, "I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year." Kretzmann's commentary, which was written about 100 years ago, says that that's about $6.50 100 years ago. So adjusted for inflation, what is that? Maybe $25 now? I give you $25 a year and a suit of clothing. That sounds like a bargain.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Apparently the cost of living was much cheaper.
Well, okay.
Just a note there. I mean, that's not a large sum of money, especially when they just took 200 pieces of silver to make fake gods.
Good point. But then again, it's like you get your room, your board, your clothing, and I'm going to give you a little pin money on that to go with it too.
True.
Yeah.
They give you a gift certificate for Olive Garden every now and then.
So let's go back. I like this word irony here. And that shows up heavy for me in verse 12. Micah ordained the Levite, young man became his priest, and he was in the house of Micah. Well, where is a Levite supposed to be being a priest? In the house of who?
Yahweh.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
God's house.
And also, here's that kind of one true religion mixed in with superstition. Now I know the Lord will prosper me because I have a Levite as a priest. So that's syncretism.
Nice talisman.
That's syncretism, which says,
right?
Yahweh does these things, but he does them in this sort of pagan way, where if I do these certain things, he likes that. If I do these other things, he doesn't like that. And if I do the things he likes, and we all know he likes the Levites, now I'll be prosperous.
Right. So in 21st and a half century theology, we have a phrase, ex opera operato, by the very doing of the thing, is what that is basically. It's treating God's word and sacraments like magical formulas and incantations that if you just do this right, then God will do whatever you want him to do, basically.
Yeah.
And so, the idea that I have a priest who is here and he happens to be a Levite instead of my schlubby son that I ordained last week, now God will have to honor me and God will have to do my will, right?
Yes.
Don't you think that that's kind of what's behind all this?
Yes, I do. Also, probably gives us a pretty good indication that Micah's status had not prospered very much with his schlubby son, as you said, as his priest.
Yep.
It's like, oh, no,
Right.
we need to make this a little more magical. And I should just say, too,
Right.
I think ex opera operato is not a 21st century theological term. It's probably more like a 14th century one, but...
It is. I'm not saying that we invented it in the 21st century, but it's still alive
It
and
is
well.
very much alive and
in
well.
the 21st and a half
Yes.
century, yes. Yeah. So, okay, 21st and a quarter
21st and a
century.
quarter.
How's that?
I'm sorry, but my brain briefly went to Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century. And
Now you know exactly where it came
okay.
from in my head.
Thank you.
So, yes, a little Looney Tunes for you. So here it is. This is the same thinking. Things have not changed for thousands of years. If we just do it right, if we get the formula just right, then God will have to honor me and do my will.
Yeah.
And so forget that whole "Thy will be done" thing that Jesus was talking about. He didn't know. He didn't know what he was really saying. I mean, really, it's about me and not about him.
And this is flat out pagan, is what it is.
Pagan idolatry.
Yes, the idea that you can do things in the physical world that influence and change things in the spiritual world, which then they prosper you back in the physical world. That's totally, thoroughly pagan.
Right.
And that's where this guy is. And he thinks he's an upstanding citizen.
If you think you can manipulate God, you got a whole new thing coming to you. I mean, it's just not going to happen like that.
Oh,
and that's actually a recipe for disaster, as we keep seeing over and over in the book of Judges and elsewhere in Scripture.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So this is not looking well. And the writer of Judges knows it's not looking well because, again, this is just dripping with irony. And we all know exactly what the writer of Judges thinks about this. And what he thinks about this is very, very bad. And we should agree.
Yeah.
We should agree.
But a good cautionary tale for us. And once again, I'll just close it out with this.
Mm-hmm.
Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, is seated at the right hand of God. This is the way that life really is under Christ, that if we take our eyes off of ourselves, which is our favorite idol, and fix them on Christ, then we're going to be okay because his will is done and his will is good and gracious. And though we may die, we will live for eternity. Any last thoughts, Troy?
It's just going to change the subject entirely, but oh, wait. What was that noise that just came in as you were speaking?
Did that come through
It
on your
did.
end?
I wonder if it came on the recording.
Well,
Because
we'll find
I
out. It
honestly
was
thought you hit the
timer.
wrong button. You had this majestic swelling music. So what I heard, folks, is this majestic swell of music as Craig spoke. and just like he was, in a movie, and getting the very peak of his speech to where all the people would, yeah, and that's what I heard. And if you didn't hear that, excuse me for ruining all that Craig just said by saying that.
Well, and if you did hear it, wasn't that fun? It was the timer telling us to wrap it up. And I didn't put it on mute like I usually do.
But you did wrap it up very well. So to get back to being serious, yes, what you just said, absolutely. Fix.
And with that, we'll say God's peace. We'll see ya. For You Radio is a 1517.org production. To listen to this radio broadcast and broadcasts like this one, I invite you to visit 1517.org. There you will also find many publications and free resources, including classes on Christian apologetics, church history, philosophy, and so much more. We are completely funded by generous donors like you. Would you consider making a generous gift to our work of spreading the gospel? Simply visit 1517.org.